we can have a
Rock this thing out.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to call to order our July 30th, 2019 special meeting of the Mason County Board of Commissioners. We'll begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Bruce Carter, if you wouldn't mind leading this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bruce. Moving on to item number 3 on our agenda tonight. It's our open forum for citizen input. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address the commission on any items that you have to address us on up here in Belfair. We'll kind of continue to observe the same time parameters that we have down in the chamber in Shelton. That's about a 3-minute per person time limit with a 15-minute total, but it's summer, so we're also a little bit more flexible. So if you have a public comment to make, raise your hand, Chair will recognize you, come forward. Bruce.
Good evening. I'm Bruce Carter. My wife and I own property on North Shore Road, and I'm here on behalf of the Hood Canal Gravel Mining Opposition Association. It's an acronym that's nearly impossible to remember. And also for the hundreds of families along the canal who've written to the county in opposition to the proposed gravel project. And I'd just like to briefly go through a few points and be consistent with your time limits. But first, we're in opposition to this because it would be a noisy, dusty industrial operation dropped in the middle of a residential area, which is totally inconsistent with the uses. And I think it would probably be the ugliest neighbor in the county that was adjacent to any residential area. A further problem is that the transportation to and from would be down really a recreational arterial, which is North Shore Road, which has narrow shoulders and completely inconsistent with the idea of huge trucks and trailers going back and forth. Right now, they're pedestrians, baby strollers, bicyclists like me, even at my advanced age, and boat trailers backing, and we've had a dose of the trucks and trailers in April, and it was very, very unpleasant. Another problem is that this activity would be hazardous to the canal because they generate silicates, which are cancerous, cancer-causing, be bad for the fisheries, and very bad for the nearby residents. In fact, I suspect that if the county were to allow this, there'd likely be lawsuits from the nearby neighbors for inversely condemning their property. Right now, we have 3 for sale signs in the immediate area as people perhaps anticipate the possibility of a huge gravel pit in that location. And it also proved to be really a blight on the landscape. Right now, most of the canal has ridges that are not industrial, and people across the canal would be listening to the noises of this industrial activity. And during that period of time in April, when they were unlawfully taking material from the site, it was shaking nearby houses just from the activity of the trucks and the bulldozers. Another thing that we would urge at this time is that the county take some enforcement action against the people who did this without a permit. They'd applied for permits last year. Quite a number of people wrote in opposition. Commissioner Netherland told them that they were out of luck with their permit, and they withdrew their permit. And then in April, here they went ahead and did this activity, much to the consternation of the neighbors. It appears that they've now been really unjustly enriched. They've made money running an unpermitted gravel pit. And we think it'd be appropriate for the county to take enforcement action against these folks who really thumbed their nose at the local government. So that's it. If you've got any questions, I'd be glad to respond.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Herb.
Herb Gerhardt, I live on North Shore, as you know. In regards to the gravel pit, I discussed it with Randy briefly, and Randy says it's not a county issue. There's nothing we as a county commission can do, yea or nay, for it, which I can accept that. However, it's a big local issue. I think we need a community meeting on that topic. Invite all the parties involved, whether they show or not, that's their prerogative. But just get it out in the open so that all the residents can ask their questions. They can vent however they want to vent. And it's still a legal status of who does the permits, are they able to do it and stuff. But all of this stuff is happening behind closed doors like lots of our government is, which is very, very unfortunate. You know, I'd like to air it out in the open if we can have a public meeting. I've suggested to Judy do it as a community voice meeting. I'm not on the board. I don't have their approval yet. But, you know, it's something that needs to be aired out where everybody can ask their questions and get it out in the open. I personally have some concerns, but that's my prerogative of concerns, you know, but other people have concerns. I would hate to see it go to court and legal battles. I mean, to me, that's just a waste of money. It doesn't accomplish anything other than creating animosity amongst everybody. Somehow we all need to get along, discuss the situation, and settle on whatever the outcome is. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none? Oh,
I'd like to clarify just a couple things, to clarify. When we spoke, what I said is the commission, not the county, because the county is still involved somehow. Well, actually not, 'cause there's nothing there now. If something was to be put in, it still goes with the county. The county commission doesn't decide on it, was my point I was making to you. It doesn't come before us for a decision. And the other thing I'm going to say, I never told the applicants to pull. I asked them. They pulled on their own. I wanted to clarify that. I don't have authority to tell anybody to pull, because again, it doesn't come before the commission. It was just a request because of the way it was going in our community. I was hoping to not see what we had seen in the past with some of our great battles that we've had. So it came in the form of a request, not a decision by me as a commissioner. Just wanted to clarify that.
okay, very good. All right, moving on to item number 4. We have an update on Mason Transit Authority's park and ride at Log Yard Road and State Route 3, and ask Danette Brandon to come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I just wanted to give the commission and the public a little bit of update on the construction of our park and ride at Log Yard Road and SR3. We first, the site itself we're still in development of that, but the first thing that we do want to get done is the roundabout that you're all aware of, was approved by WashDOT. We are right now, the status of that is we're waiting for final comments we submitted final comments on our submittal package to WashDOT, and then we addressed those, and so we're just waiting for approval on those and the approval of the construction permit so we can move forward with construction. We're also addressing Mason County's comments. We just have a few there to address. And then the bid package is nearly ready. Well, it is actually ready, and it will be released by September 1. And so then what that means is we'll put out the bid package. We'll have about a 3-week window to accept bids, and then we'll have to take it to the MTA board for approval of the contract. And since we're probably going to miss our September board meeting, it won't be until October, but we may, if it's in our best interest, we may call a special meeting to get the contract approved so we can begin construction in early October, because that would be probably our best interest while the weather maybe is still cooperating with us. The construction time for the roundabout will be 90 working days, and of course weather may stretch that out for a while depending on how the weather goes this fall. I know there'll be a big concern about when construction will be happening through the day and when roads will be closed, that type of thing. you can see on the handout, I did put a schedule of when we're allowed to bring the road, SR3 down to one lane. And so that's during the nighttime hours. During the daytime, it will be open, both lanes will be open. Since the construction is moving slightly to the right, that will probably avoid a lot of time that the traffic won't be impacted, especially as we move it. It'll be like if you're heading north, it'll slide over to the right some. So we hope to hopefully have that done here this fall, or if, again, depending on the weather, it may carry over into the springtime some, but this is part of what our overall project up here in Belfair with our park and ride. We discuss over and over the safety of our buses moving in and out of the park and ride, as well as those using the park and ride. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those, and hopefully soon it won't be a big impact, but I know it's a little nervous having a roundabout come up here, so but it's probably what we feel is the safest for our buses. So yes, sir.
How are we doing as far as the park and ride itself? I haven't seen any action whatsoever yet.
Right, so
I'd imagine that we would have been under construction by now.
yes, I would have wanted to be under construction by now.
It's another bypass situation.
Yeah, so we're looking to release that bid package probably either sometime between November and January for spring construction. So, and that's probably about a 10-month project when you count the actual building being built there, as well as the parking lot itself, the parking right itself, and there'll be like 100 stalls there. It is going to be our north facility, so our buses will be parked in a secure area, so that's why the longer time frame for that project to be done.
So possibly by the end of next year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but I don't, yeah. That's what I'm saying, yeah. Hopefully by the end of 2020, we'll be open and functioning. Yes, Ken?
Danette, I noticed a small public notice right there on the corner by the MTA sign. Do you know what that is?
For the, is that the sign that is, I am not sure what
Oh,
that is.
it's just,
Is
you
that
know,
by
one of the
this-
official public notices that the county puts out, and I saw it, I didn't stop and look at it, but, yeah.
Could be sports practices.
Yeah, I'm
We
not.
can find out.
Yeah, I'm
But,
not,
yeah,
I'm
I
not
just
sure.
was curious.
Mhm.
My other, are all three of the county commissioners on the Mason Transit Board?
They are.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions? Questions from the commission?
Thanks for your update.
All right,
Appreciate
you're
it.
Thank you,
welcome.
Danette.
Okay, moving on to item number 5. We have an update on the Belfair Freight Corridor. I have Michelle Britton with us from State Department of Transportation. Thanks for joining us, Michelle.
Hi, everybody. I think I know almost everybody in the room here. Welcome, everybody. I'm happy to be here to give you an update. We actually have hired a consultant and gotten started, and I actually have some new information for you today, which has not happened in a while, so that's a good thing. Well, let's not get too excited about it. So I wanted to just kind of go through the background a little bit before we got going. One thing that we always do when we start up a project again, we review the purpose and need of the project. And as most of you know, it is now, the title of it is now the SR3 Freight Corridor. That emphasis was put on by the legislature. They changed the name of it to, it no longer says Belfair Bypass, it's SR3 Freight Corridor. And so the purpose and need kind of changed a little bit. They want this to be for efficient movement of freight, move regional traffic between Shelton and Bremerton, and make sure we have reliable regional access to jobs and goods. So it's important to always come back and remember why we're doing it as we're coming along and doing our design. So Department of Transportation we are going to be using something called Practical Solutions. It's stuff that a lot of what we've already done. What's different about it is we used to be pretty standards driven, where we would have a matrix and you'd pick a lane width off of the matrix, and we don't really do that anymore. We try to build the right project in the right location. And so you'll find that we will start with a lot of the work that was done before in history, like the roadway section, but we'll always ask ourselves, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right of way width? Is this the right lane width? So that's kind of something that will be a little different than before. This is just kind of a slide of recent background and history of the project. I say recent because I know a lot of you will tell me it's been going on longer than this, but probably the most recent thing that I've seen is the Mason County bypass EA, which WashDOT took and they redid in 2013, which also never really got completed because it did not get without funding, the feds do not do a finding of no significance. So that's kind of our most recent document, and we've now started design. We hired a consultant earlier this year, and we have some new stuff to talk about today. This is what we were left with in 2013, two-lane roadway, 120 feet of right-of-way, and end connections at Highway 302 and Lake Flora, and a limited access facility. This is the roadway section directly out of the EA, 120 feet of right-of-way, 2 12-foot lanes, 2 8-foot shoulders. It's kind of the basics there. This was also out of the EA. You probably have seen this a few times. Kind of a connection at Lake Flora on 302, a connection down, oh wait, this is Lake Flora. The last one was a connection at near the high school where we're at right now. And then this is the selected connection for Lake Flora. So this is where we're at for schedule right now. So we just started back up, and we will be, so July 1st, our full funding became available for design. Before July 1st, we only had a small portion of money, so we can really get going in earnest now. We have some traffic numbers that we're going to show you that is what we've done to date, and then we're going to be looking at those endpoint connections, evaluating signals versus roundabouts. Those kind of things are all coming up. So here's some new stuff for you guys. So we have updated traffic volumes. You may have seen the traffic hoses out in the community. This is what we have for traffic growth since the 2013 numbers that you guys saw when they circulated the environmental assessment. So we've had about a 10% growth on Highway 3 at around Lake Flora, 15% reduction at Clifton, which I can only think that people are going down Clifton, and that's why 3 went down. And then 106 is also around 106 on Highway 3, south of 106 is about a 10% increase. And so you can see our level of service at the intersection of Clifton and SR3 kind of took a nosedive in the last 6 years. It's gotten a lot worse at Clifton Lane. And then 106 has kind of stayed the same.
Michelle?
Yeah.
If you might mind going back to that.
Sure.
Could you just explain the
Level of
letters that
service?
go along with that?
Sure.
Where
I did
does
not
E
put that
fall?
graphic in there, but basically it relates to the delay that you experience when you go through that intersection. And so as you get more and more delay, you get a worse and worse score, and the worst you can get is F, level of service F. Next time I come, I'll make sure I put that graphic in there that shows you. And we'll be talking about delay when we get numbers from the analysis that we're currently doing. And so delay is definitely something
Great.
you
Thank
can understand. So this is a really interesting graphic. We have at Lake Flora, you may have seen the solar panels near Lake Flora. That is a permanent traffic station that counts the traffic. So what the blue line is there is the actual traffic counts at that station. And the red line is a 2% growth rate, which is what the EA originally looked at as a 2% growth rate as being reasonable. But what we're seeing is 1%. I mean, if you take a look at the green line, that's about a 1%. And so we're taking that into consideration when we look at forecasting for intersection analysis that are going on, so. Okay, so one of the other things that we've been doing recently, we had a cell phone data collection to figure out how much traffic will bypass Belfair on the freight corridor. And so the cell phone data is what they use in conjunction with the hoses that you saw out there. And so the estimate is that the AM peak, 51% of the traffic is going to bypass Belfair. And then the PM is 37%. So we've always said around 33%. It looks like in one direction it's higher. So in the morning, more people would bypass. So you'd think that that's in the afternoon, people are going down and shopping or something on the way home, or I don't know. I'm guessing, but anyway. So this data is being used to update the traffic analysis. So there's a traffic report that is part of the environmental assessment that has to be updated. So that discipline report will be updated using these numbers. The truck counts are pretty important now that this is a freight corridor, so we will be looking at truck counts. And we also have seasonal variations and fluctuations that have to be considered. As you know, summertime, a lot of the traffic coming down the hill seems to be worse, especially on Friday. So this report, we have a draft from the consultant. We're looking at it right now. We're reviewing it. And we're going to keep moving on. So now that we have numbers, and we do have some delay numbers from the consultant, we just have not reviewed them, and so I didn't bring them today. We're going to update that traffic analysis completely, and then what they're going to use the delay numbers for is the intersection control evaluation. So what that is it's a report that we do to look at what is the best option for intersection control. So up on the north end, do we want to keep with the signal that was originally analyzed, or do we want to move it to a roundabout, which as a department we are in favor of roundabouts. They're a lot better for keeping traffic moving, and they introduce a lot less delay to the system. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that next time once I get a little more information. And the other thing we are doing is looking to see what's changed. So we know we have some new buildings that have gone up and a few things that now are in the way that weren't in the way. So we're looking at, are these alignments still good? We did make one minor adjustment to the main line alignment to stay out of the ravine for Coulter Creek. The original bypass that the EA looked at went right over Coulter Creek, and it's pretty deep, huh, Randy? I took Randy out there, and it's pretty shocking how deep it is. I did not know. We had it surveyed after they selected the alignment last time, and so once we realized that we were gonna have to put a big bridge there, we made some adjustments.
Saved millions. Good
Yeah,
job.
a couple $1 million, yeah. So I put this one in again, just so you can see where we're headed. Design phase is ongoing. We have a lot of things to do. We have to decide how those end connections are gonna look. We've got to have some open houses. We've got a lot to do. So that design's gonna stretch out probably till '23. And the reason I had this updated because this is going to be a limited access facility. And limited access facilities have to have an access hearing. And so it takes at least 8 months to do an access hearing. You can't make any offers on any property till you go through that process. And so it pushed us out a little bit when we did our schedule. So we now have a schedule, and this is pretty close to what we have. Environmental work has not started yet, but is very shortly going to start. We'll probably start with getting some wetland delineations, working on those kind of things. So, and then we won't be seeing any kind of acquisitions, probably, purchasing property till a little bit into that blue bar there. We have to start with an access hearing, so if you look at that, if you're a property owner and you're gonna be, and you know you're gonna be impacted, the fourth quarter of 2020 is not when you will be seeing somebody come out and offer to you. It's gonna be later than that, because we have to go through that access hearing, but you'll probably be contacted about that though. And there I am. You guys welcome to email me anytime, and does anybody have any questions?
Michelle?
Yeah.
I have something, I want to make note that you were showing during the traffic study, the reduction in traffic that came through here in 2008 being the high. Then we had that recession, but I don't think it's because of that. Is shortly around that time, the water system started to be put in a little bit, or at least some of the things started to
This one
occur.
right here.
Then 2011 became the sewer, and then you had the road widening. So even though you're showing numbers that are coming back up, I have a feeling from what we see on the road every day on Old Belfair Highway, they found alternate routes, and
Yeah.
it's already exponentially much higher. And some of that may come back after it's changed,
Do you
so.
see the blue dot there at the very end?
Yeah.
That's the most recent volume. So that's probably a little bit higher than 1%. So when we do the traffic, the final report, that we have to decide on what we're gonna put in there for growth. And it's probably gonna be, I would think 1.5%, but I don't know that yet, because I'm not a traffic expert, so.
Well, and because they may not come back, that's why we need to continue that conversation on that four-way. And looking at our options for the county and the state for maybe traffic.
Oh,
circle
at
there.
Clifton.
Yeah.
There was a question back here.
Yeah, it appears to
Sorry,
me
what-
that
what was
some
your
of the
name?
Rush hour traffic has been diverting to the old Belfair Highway. Do you have a sense of the combined traffic flows?
They have volumes at each of those intersections. They know where traffic has gone. I just don't have that with me.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the totals were, because my sense is that, everybody, the way to go at rush hour is Old Belfair Highway, and yet it'd be interesting to see what kind of totals you would get.
So they're going down
That might
Clifton?
relate to your 1%, 2%. They're coming down to the four-way stop there at the QFC.
And they come from Gorst, down Old Belfair Highway into Belfair.
Oh, okay.
And that traffic has changed exponentially
Yeah.
over the last few years.
And it backs up quite a ways to the Davis Farm and that.
And beyond, and beyond.
Yeah, Union River is much bigger.
Ken?
Michelle, I thought I was just gonna follow up with what Commissioner Netherland said. I know the county's been doing some road counts on the Old Belfair Highway, but the state should have road counts on SR 300 too.
We do.
And that, I think that should be folded into this, because I think when all is said and done, it's gonna be much higher than 1%.
Well, this is Highway 3. 300 is, there's no connection other than down in town.
Well, and that's where the choke point is it's right there. Every evening, it backs up all the way to the Union River. That's a mile down the road from that four-way intersection.
So if we are taking, so if we go back to this origin and destination thing here, in the morning, about 50% of the traffic in that segment, they're gonna have an easier time of getting into town there. In the evening, it'll be a little worse, because it seems like everybody wants to go to Belfair in the evening, so.
Well, that's because most of them, there's quite a few people that live down on the Tahuya Peninsula that, take a right to go down Highway 300. So I just wanted to make sure that that was considered.
Yeah, they actually did, I don't have it with me, but they did hoses on 300 on Clifton. They had to, because they have to know where people are going to understand the bypass part of it. Cell phones aren't everything, the cell phone data is a good indication, but they had to put hoses out too, so. Anything else?
I think Herb has a question.
Little bit off your topic, the highway widening, the site distance impairments coming out of the plaza where the sheriff's substation is and the brewery. John Byerly, myself, and DOT's have had meetings on that, and DOT last fall agreed that they're gonna go fill in and not have a cliff there, but make it a gradual slope, and then there won't be a need for the fence. And nobody's heard a thing since they said they're doing that. They surveyed, and then there hasn't been any contact since then.
That's not true. Mr. Byerly's had lots and lots of letters from us. That is not true.
I just talked to him recently. He asked me if I knew when we were gonna start, because he doesn't have a clue.
He's had a letter within the last month, and he's had multiple letters. Our real estate services, I did a right-of-way plan. Our real estate services office is in the process of appraising a slope easement. We cannot proceed without a slope easement. And so that is what's going on right now. It's in progress. So.
That's something that needs to get resolved.
All right, any other questions? Very good, thanks, Michelle.
All right,
Appreciate
no
the updates.
All right.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, a review of our updated animal code, and that has my name next to it, so I'll make this brief for everybody. But recently, the commission took action to add additional language to the county's animal code, which is Chapter 4 of our Mason County Code, for those of you that may want to go home and look it up on our website. We added language to give our sheriff's deputies, our commissioned law enforcement officers, and if and when animal control officer is back, so somebody with a limited commission, the ability to cite for nuisance dogs that are roaming at large, nuisance animals that roam at large. And so this was an issue that was initially brought to me by a constituent out in Matlock, who is also a park host for the county. There were some issues with animals coming onto our park property at Truman Glick, and creating some issues with park visitors and just kind of in the local area there. And so he came forward with an issue, and I sat down with our sheriff's office as well as our parks manager and other folks to hammer out some language that might help address this issue and give the sheriff's office a little bit more flexibility when it comes to citing owners of animals that roam at large. With that, I brought it to the commission and was very grateful for the support of our commissioners on that. It's not an issue that is just in Matlock, it's a county-wide issue. And so it was an opportunity for us to make a small addition to code that gives a little bit more flexibility. When it comes to the enforcement of that still falls under the sheriff's purview. We're just giving them more tools at their disposal to be able to address some of these issues that folks have when it comes to animals in the county. And so they're going to continue to address them as they come in on a priority basis. But I know that they have been working with folks who have made these complaints and trying to address it when it's possible. So that's kind of a quick overview of the addition we made. Again, I appreciate the support of the commission on making that change, as well as a constituent that had the idea and brought it forward. So if you ever think that we don't listen to you when you come in and have ideas, we do, and you're able to really impact how we do business, and it's just, we know that the best ideas don't always come from the commission chamber. They oftentimes come from the community, so we're always open to that kind of conversation. So if there's any questions, Herb.
I always have a question. More of a comment this time.
Perfect.
Since we have news media here. This, in my mind, has a pretty important impact to all of Mason County. And it would be nice if the journal could run periodic stories. One, explain exactly what happened, what the dog owners now are responsible for, and what can happen to them. And then, like on a quarterly basis or semi-annual, do a follow-up and say, hey, over the last 3 months, here's what's happened. To try to make an impact on the dog owners that, hey, you do have some responsibility. Where right up to now, I've always been told, that's why I moved to Mason County. You don't have a leash law. So the more we publicize it, I think the better off we are as getting compliance.
Yeah, and I know the journal did run it when it was adopted by the commission, so.
But just brief
Yeah.
wording that, yes, it was adopted, I don't think the average person understands what it means,
Mhm.
especially if you're a dog owner.
Mhm.
They only want to understand what they want.
I don't think that's just limited to dog owners. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our adjournment. Is there a motion to, do we need a motion to adjourn tonight? Well, everybody have a good night, we're adjourned.